So my dear student, welcome back again. In the last class, we have finished with this classification, that was the classification of the skeletal muscle according to the type of fasciculi. Under this classification, there was two type of muscle, fine muscle and coarse muscle. Fine muscle are those muscle who are doing the delicate kind of movements or precious movements like extraocular muscle. In case of coarse muscle, the muscle they are doing the very strong kind of movements, vigorous kind of movements, like the muscles of the limbs. Now, the next classification is according to the color or histochemical properties. Under this classification, there are two types of muscle, red muscle and white muscle. Let's start with the red muscle fibers. In these muscle fibers, there are less cross striations but more sarcoplasmic reticulum. For your kind information, sarcoplasmic reticulum are the endoplasmic reticulum of the muscle cells. So, as there are profuse amount of sarcoplasmic reticulum present within the muscle cells, there will be high amount of myoglobin and the cytochrome. There will be also dense capillary network in these muscle fibers. That means increased amount of blood supplies are present in this muscle. Obviously, the muscle looks straight. High concentration of mitochondria and enzymes associated with oxidative metabolism, so also called these muscles are aerobic muscle or oxidative muscle. As we know that mitochondria is the powerhouse of cell, so increased amount of mitochondria means increased amount of oxidative metabolism, and that's why these muscles are using oxygen to do the works, and that's why these muscles are called aerobic muscle or oxidative muscle. More specifically, these muscles are doing a slower rate of actions. That means whenever these muscles are contracting, they are contracting in a slower rate. But interestingly, these muscles can work for a longer period of time, or they can work a continuous vigorous activity. Slow and sustained wins the race is very much appropriate for this kind of muscle. Some of the example of these red muscles are long muscles of the back like erector spine, anti-gravity muscles of the trunk, brachialis and soleus. Usually red muscles are present as a deep muscles of the limb. For example, we already know brachialis was present just beneath the biceps brachii of the arm. At the same time, soleus is a calf muscle which is present deeper into the gastrocnemius muscle. Now, what is white muscle fiber? It is just opposite to the red muscle, where there are more cross striation but less sarcoplasmic reticulum, and less amount of sarcoplasmic reticulum leads to less content of myoglobin and cytochrome. These muscles are having poor capillary network. That means less amount of blood supplies are present in this muscle. They are also having fewer amount of mitochondria, but interestingly higher level of glycogen. By the action of the glycolytic enzyme, these muscles are doing the anaerobic glycolysis, or anaerobic or glycolytic fibers they are called. They can contract rapidly, but early fatigue develops in this kind of muscles. So it is just opposite to the red muscle, where there was less amount of rapidity of movements in the red muscle, but over here the rapidity of movements are more. Over there the muscle was continuously working, but over here they can develop fatigue very easily. Some of the examples of the white muscles. White muscles are usually the superficial muscles. For example, extraocular muscle, biceps brachii, hamstring muscle and the gastrocnemius. Now, the most important classification of the voluntary or the skeletal muscle are according to the arrangement of the muscle fasciculi. That means how the muscle fibers or the fascicles are arranged. Under this classification, there is parallel muscle, pinnate muscle, spiral or twisted muscle, and cruciate muscle. Parallel muscle. In case of parallel muscle, the muscle fibers are parallel to the line of pull. Muscle fibers are long but fewer in number. As the muscle fibers are long, that's why the range of movement is more. But as the number of the fibers are less, that's why the force of contraction is less. Now, what are the subdivisions of the parallel muscle? There are some types of parallel muscle. For example, strap muscle. Example is sartorius rectus abdominis. Quadrate. Example is quadratus lumborum and quadratus femoris. And last, fusiform. The example is biceps brachii. These are the pictures of the parallel muscle. Over here we can see the rectus abdominis. The muscle fibers are strap. This muscle is the quadratus lumborum, which is a muscle of the back. This muscle is the sartorius, and this is the fusiform shaped biceps brachii. Now the pinnate muscle. Pinnate muscles fiber are actually obliquely pressed to the line of pull. These muscles are short, but the number of fibers are more. As these muscles are short, that's why their range of movement is less. But as the number of fibers are more, that's why their force of contraction is more. Pinnate muscles are four types: unipinnate, bipinnate, multipinnate, and circumpinnate. Unipinnate muscle. All fleshy fibers slope into one side of the tendon. Over here we can see the tendon, and the fleshy fibers are obliquely placed, but they are present only on one side, and it appears half of a feather. Examples are flexor pollicis longus, extensor digitorum longus, and peroneus tertius. Now, bipinnate muscle. The tendon is the central axis where two groups of muscle fibers slope on each side of the central tendon. We can see over here on either side there is sloping of muscle fibers. It looks like a whole feather, obviously. Example is rectus femoris, dorsal interosseous muscles of the hand and foot. Now the multipinnate muscle. Obviously, a series of bipinnate muscles are arranged side by side in one plane. Like bipinnate muscles are side by side, and there are multiple tendons in between them. Acromion fibers of deltoid muscle and subscapularis are the example of multipinnate muscle. Circumpinnate muscle. The muscle is cylindrical shaped within which a central tendon is present. These are cylindrical, we can see, and there is a central tendon. Oblique muscles converged into central tendon from all sides. We can understand that the muscles are coming from all directions to the central tendon. Example, tibialis anterior, the only muscle that is circumpinnate in our body. This muscle is present in the leg. Now the spiral muscle. These muscles are twisted in arrangement close to their insertion. Obviously we can see the muscles are twisting. Examples are pectoralis major and supinator. Cruciate muscle. These muscles are arranged superficial and deep plane and crossing each other like X. That means these muscles are appearing as X, where there are two groups of muscle basically. One is over another one. We can see example is the sternocleidomastoid muscle. These are the superficial and this is the deep. They are crossing each other like a crush. Over here we can see The masseter muscle is also there, where the muscles is overlapping with each other, two group of muscles. These are the combined picture of all more skeletal muscles. Now, the anatomy of the skeletal muscle. Usually, a skeletal muscle has an origin from where the muscle starts. For example, the biceps brachii. It is having a bulky body, that is called the belly, and also the muscle will be finished in a particular area, and the finishing point is called the insertion. Usually, the origin is fixed and the insertion site is always mobile, because the line of pull is always working at the site of insertion. Now, another classification nowadays is very common and very standard classification, that is the classification on the basis of functions. And under this classification, the muscles can be prime mover, antagonist, synergist, and fixator. What is prime mover? These muscles are constantly active in the initiation and maintenance of a desired movement. Example, quadriceps muscle extend the knee joint. Brachialis flexes the elbow joint. That means whenever we want to do a particular kind of movement, the principal muscle who is helping you to do that, that is called the prime mover. For example, as you have finished the superior extremity, you know that for the flexion of the elbow joint, the principal muscle is brachialis. That's why brachialis is the prime mover for the flexion of the elbow joint. Antagonist. These muscles produce an action just opposite to the prime mover. They relax when prime mover contract and vice versa. That means whenever you are moving a prime mover, the antagonist should relax itself. At the same time, when that antagonist will act as a prime mover, then the main prime mover will be the antagonist. For example, in case of brachialis, it was doing the flexion, at the same time the tricep was relaxing. But when we are trying to do the extension of the elbow joint, we are using the tricep muscle to do the function. That's why at that time tricep will be the prime mover, but at the same time brachialis has to be relaxed. That's why the brachialis will be the antagonist. So a muscle can be prime mover and a muscle can be antagonist as well. Another example is the biceps femoris, that is the antagonist of the quadriceps femoris, and it produces extension of the knee joint. This is a picture when the biceps is contracting, the triceps is relaxing. When the biceps is relaxed, the triceps is contracting. Now, synergist muscle. When the prime mover moves across a number of intermediate joints before reaching to the target joint for a desired movement, the intermediate joints are stabilized by the synergist muscle to prevent the unwanted movements. For example, extensor and the flexor muscles of the carpus stabilize the intermediate joints during writing. The sense is there when a prime mover is trying to do a desired work, and this prime mover, when crossing a number of joints and working to a distal joint, the intermediate joints has to be stabilized so that we can do the work by the prime mover efficiently. The muscles who are stabilizing those intermediate joints are called the synergist muscles. A simple example is like when the biceps is working as a prime mover, the brachioradialis is working as a synergist to flex the elbow joint. We can understand. Also, the brachialis act as a synergist, and these synergists are working on the elbow joint. Now, the fixator muscle. They stabilize the origin of the prime mover so that the prime mover can act efficiently. That means whenever a prime mover is working, there are some muscles who are stabilizing the prime mover so that the prime mover can work accordingly. For example, during the abduction of the shoulder joint, deltoid is working as a prime mover. As we know, the deltoid is doing the abduction. There are some other muscles like levator scapulae, rhomboides, and the trapezius who are fixing the site of movement of deltoid so that the deltoid can do the abduction in appropriate way. And over here, the levator scapulae, rhomboides, and the trapezius muscle are the fixator muscle. Now let's learn some of the muscle nomenclatures. The muscles can be named according to the location. For example, pectoralis, pectoral region means chest. We know the pectoralis major and minor muscles. Then gluteus, that means glutes or the buttock. The muscle present in the gluteal region is gluteus maximus, gluteus medius or minimus. Brachial, that means arm. Brachialis, brachioradialis, we already know this muscle. Sometimes muscle can be named according to the size, like maximus, pectoralis major, gluteus maximus. Sometimes minimus, like pectoralis minimus and also gluteus minimus. Sometimes the muscle can be named as longus, that means it is having a long tendon, or it can be named as brevis, or it can that means it is having a short tendon. You already know the name of the muscles having the longus: abductor pollicis longus, flexor carpi radialis longus, extensor carpi radialis brevis. Sometimes the muscle can be named according to the shape, like deltoid, that means triangular. Quadratus or quadrangular muscles are there, like quadratus lumborum, quadratus femoris. Teres sometimes, that means round or cylindrical. We know the teres major and minor muscles. Sometimes the muscle can be named as to the orientation of the fibers, like when there are multiple fibers all together combined, like rectus. Sometimes the muscle can be named according to their origin and insertion. For example, sternocleidomastoid, where the muscle is coming from the sternum and clavicle and going to the mastoid process of the temporal bone. Brachioradialis, that means it is coming from the brachium or arm or humerus and going to the radius. Sometimes the muscle can be named according to their number of heads, like biceps, that means 2 heads, triceps 3 heads. Sometimes they can named according to their action, like abduction, abductor pollicis longus, or sometimes adduction. Sometimes it can be named as on the basis of mastication, like masseter. So many muscle terminologies are over here. You can have a look. Anterior front, external, that means superficial, extrinsic outside. Inferior is inferior, internus deep or internal, intrinsic inside, lateralis lateral, medialis or medius medial, obliquus oblique, posterior back, profundus deep, rectus straight or parallel, superficialis superficial, superioris superior, transversus transverse, abdominis abdomen, anconeus elbow, auricularis auricle or ear, brachialis brachium or arm, capitis head, carpis wrist, cervicis neck, cleido or clavius or clavicle, coccygeus coccyx, costalis rib, cuneus cutaneous or skin, femoris femur, genio chin, glosso tongue, hallucis gretto, ilio ilium, inguinal groin, lumborum lumbar region. We already know the heads kind of business. Quadriceps, that means four heads. Deltoid triangular, orbicularis circle, pectinate, comb like, piriformis spear shape, platees flat, pyramidal, pyramid shape, rhomboidus, serratus serrated, splenius, bandage, teres long round, trapezius trapezoid shape. So these are the different type of muscles name that you will learn at anatomy, but they are having a background. Some of the muscles. Now this will be the microanatomy of the muscle cell. On the next class we will learn about the microanatomy of the muscle cells. So until then, take care.